Welcome to episode 100 of Student Ministry Connection, a podcast for those who serve in student ministry and want to connect and grow. On this very special episode, we're going to talk with Kevin Miles, a veteran youth worker, about the importance of networking. We're going to celebrate by giving away a bunch of prizes, and we're going to announce some different ways that you can support the podcast moving forward. Welcome again to Student Ministry Connection, episode 100. My name is Steve Cullum, and I began serving in kids and student ministry in 1999 as a volunteer, and then in 2003, I was blessed with a part-time role, and I've been serving students, families, and other youth workers ever since. In 2015, though, I began thinking about all the different conversations that I've had with my fellow youth workers, mentors, authors, and speakers, and I began to wonder if others might want to listen in on some of these conversations in a podcast format. So after a year of praying and brainstorming and gathering equipment, God gave me the opportunity to launch this podcast in February 2016. And here we are, 7 years later, celebrating our 100th episode. And while this is a labor of love for me, I seriously could not do it without two other very important groups of people. First, I want to thank you all for listening, for your encouragement, for you suggesting guests, and for you sharing this with other youth workers. I really wasn't sure if I'd even get 10 downloads when I first started this, but you have proven that wrong time and time again, so thank you so much for being here. And second, I want to thank our sponsors. Over the 7-year history of this podcast, we've had some amazing sponsors like Work Camp NE, Reach Youth New England, MinHub, and G-Shades. And we've had so many other partners that have allowed us access to conferences and other events. The fact that you all believe in this and want to support it is huge. And speaking of which, let's thank the sponsor of this episode of the podcast. G-Shades is a youth ministry curriculum and teaching strategy focused on helping students see everyday life situations through the lens of the gospel. G-Shades has options to fit everyone as well, with 3 plans to choose from. This curriculum gives you the resources that you need to do what you do better. Do you need message outlines, a discussion guide, and a game? That's just $20 a month. If you're looking for a higher production value, including bumper videos, Instagram devotionals, and parent guides, that's $30 a month. And if you want an affordable, engaging video curriculum, G-Shades has you covered for only $40 a month. You will not find a better youth ministry video curriculum at that price point anywhere. Head over to gshades.org, that's GSHADES.org, to download Season 4 of G-Shades curriculum and use the promo code CONNECTION at checkout to receive an extra $20 off your order. G-Shades, seeing life through the lens of the gospel. Thank you, G-Shades, for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. You can find the link to G-Shades in the podcast show notes. As I mentioned earlier, we have several things packed into this episode. We're going to announce some awesome giveaways. We're going to talk to a veteran youth worker about networking, and we're going to announce and tease some different ways that you can support the podcast moving forward. But first of all, what are those prizes we're giving away? The first prize is a Cards Christians Like card game. If you haven't checked this out, make sure you do so. The second prize is a free Season 4 Prime annual subscription to G-Shades curriculum. Also, we're going to be giving away a lifetime membership to Download Youth Ministries Youth Ministry University. And finally, we have 2 prizes from Orange. We're going to be giving away a prize pack with a Family Matters Essentials book and a 10-pack of Pro volunteer pins, and also a free ticket to Orange Conference 2023. We're going to give you more information on how to win those prizes at the end of this episode, so make sure you stay tuned. And don't forget, we still have our book giveaway for Know Thy Gamer by Drew Dixon going on until February 28th, 2023, so make sure you enter for that too. But now I want to jump into a conversation that I had with Kevin Miles. Kevin is currently serving as the Regional Director of the South Central and Heartland regions for National Network of Youth Ministries, an organization that is very near and dear to my heart, as I've been so blessed to be a part of youth pastor networks over the years and also serve with NNYM as the co-coordinator for New Hampshire and the coordinator for Colorado. But I'll let Kevin be the one to tell you more about NNYM and why it's so important to network with others in student ministry. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today, Kevin.
Absolutely. Great to be here.
So I know we've got to know each other over the last couple years working together with NNYM, and it's been a pleasure. But I'd love to just, as we start today, just jump into your story, give our audience an opportunity just to hear a little more about maybe how you came to Christ and how you got involved in ministry.
Man, I tell people God has a sense of humor with my life, but so I grew up in church. Like I was always in church, part of church active, but I was just attending church for a long time, and no one that I remember ever told me I need to have a relationship with Jesus until I was a teenager. I think that's why God's really placed on my heart youth ministry in my life. And so was attending church as a teenager. I was 13 years old. We had a pastor. He was actually a missionary to Nigeria that was just home for 2 years on furlough and pastor of our church. And so he would just tell these stories of being in the jungles of Nigeria, going up the river. And so I just got fascinated with the stories and stuff. And so one day I was like, man, I want to know more about this Jesus guy. And so I went and I asked my parents, hey, what about this Jesus guy? You know, how do you do that? And they said, that's a great question. Let's set up an appointment with the pastor. So I'll never forget it. Remember it like it was yesterday. It was a Tuesday afternoon, February of 1991. I go after school to the church, go to the pastor's office, and he tells me, walks down the Roman road, goes through those verses, tells me about Jesus. And that day, I remember I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior. And since then, I didn't know exactly what that meant. And so God just began to develop my relationship with him, and just through the youth ministers that I had. Now, I will say from my 7th grade year to my 12th grade year, I had 6 different youth pastors. So that's 6 years, 6 different ones. And some were interim, some were just there temporary or whatever, but 6 different people. But I can look back and see how each one played a part in developing my relationship with God and giving me a chance in ministry. So saved at 13, we started going to some camps and stuff. And I remember it was the very last service of a camp, and they give out a call. If God's calling you to ministry, come forward and make that public. Now I'm the shy kid, like face turns red. I did not talk in public growing up. This is really funny. So I was like, you've got to be out of your mind. So I did not go forward at camp because I thought this is a camp high. This is going to go away. And I got home and it did not go away. And I remember going to my youth pastor. His name was Marty. I go to Marty and we're talking, and he said, dude, God's calling you to minister. You like, here's what that means, and here's all this. And I remember going to the church service that next Sunday, a couple weeks later, and there was a song. It was the weirdest song I've ever heard in my life about Moses. It was like an echoing thing. You know, our music minister was singing it, Brother Joe, and we're sitting there, and it's like, you know, Moses made all these excuses about why he couldn't. And so that's what I was doing. I was like, I can't speak. I don't go in front of people. And God said, you know what, just say yes, and we'll deal with the rest later. And so at 15, I surrendered to the ministry. You know, 15-year-olds really know what that means too. So immediately, really God began to open up doors. So I preached my first sermon that year at 15 years old. Wow. And I would not rewatch it again at all. But God just began to open up doors for ministry, to preach on Sundays for some smaller churches in the area and different things. And it was a cool experience. But since then, God just brought me on a journey and said, you know what? Here's what I want you to do. I'll give you the courage you need. I'll give you the boldness you need to say what you need to say, and just go, just be faithful. And so throughout my life, I've kind of one step at a time, God's faithful, God's faithful, God's faithful. And so I went off to college and majored in Greek and Hebrew, of all things. Wow. And then got a degree in youth ministry. And been on church staff, was on church staff for 23 years as a youth pastor, and now work for the National Network of Youth Ministries.
Nice. I love how, yeah, like, I think we'll probably get into that a little bit, but I think some of your background within, your time in high school, like having that many different youth pastors, like I love that wasn't necessarily just a negative thing, because that could be potentially a negative thing, but you've been able to see the positives through it and be able to see how they all affected you, which is really awesome. And yeah, we know that like networking does help people stay in their roles a little longer, but God was still able to use that. And I think that's sometimes we do look back and see those kind of things and like, oh man, the youth ministry was flailing during those times, but nope, God had it. God had those students, and he had a path for you.
Yeah, each one, like I remember one was so focused on your relationship with Jesus and outlined a person on a big piece of paper and said, here's the spiritual journey of what it means to grow in Christ. So one was really focused on, here's how you grow in your relationship. And one was really big on outreach. So we did street ministry, and we had street ministry teams, and we pulled up a trailer in a parking lot back when people cruised up and down the road, on
right.
Friday night. And so we set up this trailer, and we had an outreach team. So it really gave me a heart for missions and working with other churches. So it's like each one played such a vital role in kind of what I do in ministry now.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. And yeah, you almost kind of had this, with each of those, with the different focuses, having a kind of a broader probably sense of the kingdom and what it's like to actually be a Christian than maybe some people do. Even if you do have a youth pastor for 10 years, maybe that focus could be too narrowed. So that's a good way of looking at it too. Yeah, that's cool. So I know that, most of your life is about networking now and connecting with other youth pastors. So give us just a little bit of an explanation of what your role is in the National Network of Youth Ministries, and then we can talk about networking as a whole.
Yeah, so I will say that like networking has played such an integral part in my ministries starting in college when I was a youth pastor. I mean, my pastor took me every day. We had lunch with other pastors in the area. So that was just kind of ingrained in me that you get to know the other ministers in town and be friends with them and stuff. And so from the day one, 19 years old, it was kind of like, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what being a minister is working with other churches and other ministries in town. So just got connected in networking early on, and it's really played an important part in my life of, being area youth pastor, area directors for associations of churches, and while I was serving on church staff, and eventually after seminary, I moved to Louisiana, and new state, new area, didn't know any youth pastors, and so since I was connected to NNYM already, that's what I did. I got on their website. I searched for a network. Didn't find one, but they helped me connect. I just made my circle bigger and bigger and bigger until I found a youth pastor that wanted to work. So I actually, in 2006, I actually became a volunteer for the National Network as a Louisiana state coordinator while I was a youth pastor on staff. And then God brought us to Texas in 2010. And was on church staff here for 10 years as a youth pastor and a little bit as associate pastor. And then I realized I am called to youth ministry, not to be an associate pastor. So God just opened up a door for me to come on board with the National Network full time. So I'm officially, I'm cursed with the longest titles of positions on church staff. I was the associate pastor of education, missions, and discipleship, which does not fit on a business card. So now I'm the South Central and Heartland Regional Coordinator for the National Network of Youth Ministries. Yeah.
Nice. So for those that maybe haven't heard of the National Network yet, and they're not really sure, how that all works and everything. So just for their sake, break that down a little bit, what your responsibilities are in that role.
Yeah, so my responsibilities really is I have 8 states. There's actually 2 regions that I work with. My main one is South Central. We're looking for leaders in Heartland, but South Central. And so my role as a regional coordinator is really to help get boots on the ground in the different states and different metro areas to coordinate a team to really share the heart of networking with other youth pastors and other ministry leaders. So how can we work together to reach every student with the gospel of Jesus Christ before they graduate from high school? So we want to identify, okay, who's in the area. Let's help them work together. And so there are a few examples of that. Like I went to an area and I met with a group of youth pastors. There wasn't a network there. And I was like, hey, cast the vision of networking. Here we are, to work together. There's plenty of students at the school. You don't have to just focus on who's at your church. And we get done. And this youth pastor comes up to me. He's like, well, I had two come up to me. One said, man, thanks so much for being here. I've been here 2 years and I don't know any of these people. And I was like, this is a small county. And I was like, wow, it's great to be here. And then the second person comes up and says, this is great. So how do I start? What do I do? And I said, pick up the phone and call another youth pastor. Like, I mean, it's just down the road. Like call it, meet for lunch, meet for coffee. We've got to take the initiative. And so really just to implant people in their mind, just to say, we are better together. We've got to work together because the task is so large. There's so many students that need to hear the gospel. And so if we work together, we can accomplish so much more. And it's lonely out there too. I mean, youth pastors, we've got to work together because we need each other. And that's what I realized from day one on church staff is you got to have a friend in ministry, and you can't do it alone. You can do it alone, but it hurts and leads to burnout and disappointments and failure. And we just got to work together. And so my role is just to help cast that vision from a regional standpoint, but also just encourage people on the ground. And even where I live, we've got to work together to reach students.
Yeah, that's so important. Yeah, I like you, my youth pastor just modeled it for me when I was young. And I don't think he was a part of an NYM or anything, but he just totally modeled it. And he had other friends that were youth pastors, and I got to see them. I got to meet them. Our youth groups did the stuff on a regular basis together. And yeah, it was just, I love the fact that he modeled that for me at a young age when I was considering going into ministry. And I had a youth ministry professor who spoke into the importance of networking. And then, my first couple of years in a new area, I got to taste what it was like not to be in a network. And I was like, no, I've got to be connected. I've got to be in this. So yeah, I love just going to speak to the heart of that a little bit more, because this is really, like, people know that have been listening to the podcast for a while. It's one of the big reasons why I kind of shifted the focus, felt like God was asking me to shift the focus of this podcast really to helping youth pastors get connected, to grow, but also to grow together. And so you kind of spoke to it a little bit already, but why is it so important for us to network? I think when we think of networking in a business sense, it's to help find the next job, but that's not what youth ministry networking is all about. So why is it so important for us to network?
Well, a couple things come to mind. One is we're on the same team. Like so many times we're in a church and we're trying to build our ministry. But when I came to Texas or any new area you go to, and you get to know the other youth pastors in town, it really helps break down those walls of competition that you've built in your mind. And so it got to a point where, we were meeting regularly and we were praying for each other, and we were doing all that stuff. And I remember students would come and go to different churches, and whoever they're dating or whoever's doing the coolest events or whatever. Yeah. So, but I remember when that happened, after I got to know the youth pastors, it was okay, because I knew if they were at their church and another church in town, I know the youth pastor, and I know they're going to get the word of God, and I know they're going to get plugged in, and our personalities were all different. So if they like it at that church, they're going to hate it at my church because just different personalities and different things. And so it really helps break down those walls of competition so that you see the other youth pastors not a competition, but as friends. And so one of the things, even, there's a lot of times that you may face a crisis in your town, at a school or in an area in your church. And so as you get to know the youth pastors, like I had a guy's name, and I was like, who am I going to call when something happens? When something happens at school, when something happens with my family, what youth pastor is in town that can be that friend for me? And so, I mean, that's they're your friends. And so it became that. But the other thing is, there's so many students in your area, and it's so easy to just be focused on who walks through your doors, or who's just in your immediate vicinity, and not focus on the big picture of you're a missionary planted right exactly where you are for a reason. And that reason is much bigger than the church that pays you to be there. You're a missionary for a group of students, for an unreached people group. And so when we work together, just to really target students to say, hey, let's work together, because this youth pastor across town, he is so good at planning this, and she's so good at this, and all this, and you come together with all your talents, with all your abilities, and you're not struggling as much anymore. You're not trying to make things work and just, whatever. And you bring all your talents together to accomplish the same purpose. Everybody kind of has their niche, and you just see God do some amazing things. And it becomes it's not longer about me. It's really about, okay, how can I use my gifts, my calling, my talents for the kingdom of God, and let another youth pastor use theirs, and kind of all just work together just to accomplish that. And so barriers, big task, you got to work together, but also just for personal. I've touched on this a little bit, but man, we need accountability. We need each other. And you need somebody to pray with you. You need somebody you can build that relationship with, to get to know you, because, man, church life, this will be a secret. Church life is really hard. And I don't know if you've struggled like this either, but like church staff, 23 years, I've been, I don't know if I can say this on the podcast, I've been cussed at by church members. I've had my door slammed by church members. Just coming, just really horrible things. And I was like, I'm really easy to get along with, or I think I am. So I was like, just when those things happen, like you feel like I'm just going to give it up. I'm going to quit. It's not worth it. But then you go back of, this is not just about me being in this office or me being at this church. It's about the students in this community that God's brought me here to reach. And so when stuff like that happens, I can call a youth pastor, say, man, just really struggling. Can you just pray with me and help me through this? And you just kind of helps you refocus on, hey, we're together in this, and your calling is much bigger than that door slamming. So stick with it and stay with it. And it matters. It matters to have other people in your life.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And we know, like, NYM and other people have done research on that to know that we know that a lot of youth pastors are stepping out of ministry right now, and they're getting tired or burnt out or whatever is causing that. But we also know that the stats say that, like, if they're involved in a healthy network, then that is at least doubled. Their tenure is at least doubled. And I mean, if that's what we need to be able to stick it in for the long haul, because a lot of times we can't. We're probably not going to see significant life change happen if we're only in a place or only in the ministry for a short amount of time. I mean, God can use it for sure, but if we're going to maximize what God has given us the best we can, man, we need people that are surrounding us and helping us get through this, because we need to be in it for the long haul. And yeah, like you said, like that's been on my heart so much over the last several years. Is there's no way that I could reach all the teenagers in my community. There's no way my church could reach all those teenagers. But what if we actually became unified, like Jesus prayed for us to be unified? And what if we actually came together and combined efforts, combined our gifts, became the body of Christ like God's asked us to be, and then maybe we can make a significant impact on the next generation.
Yeah, and I'll speak into like the long haul, like the relationships that you build by being somewhere a long time are just invaluable. Like they can just help so much in ministry. You build relationship with the school, with administration, with adults in town, and all these relationships. They really matter. And I've been in my town now 12 years, 13 years, and it makes a difference. I'm friends with the high school principal, and I'm friends with the athletic director, and I'm friends with coaches and teachers and business owners, and it makes a big difference to say, hey, I have this crazy idea. What if we were to do this? And so, like even here recent, like a coach calls like, hey, I have this crazy idea. Can we pull this off? Can we do this? I was like, if I wouldn't have been here this long, they would have never called. They would never ask. And so it does matter. Longevity does matter in ministry, even though sometimes we go to a place and we say, okay, I'm going to pull out all the bells and whistles and be like the biggest, best youth pastor in town. And then after a couple of years, it's kind of like, okay, I'm out of ideas, and what do I do now? And so really working with other youth pastors in town and being here for the long haul, you really help strengthen your skills and your ability and your impact where you are.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kevin, I know you get opportunity to encourage youth pastors on a regular basis. It's part of what you get to do with NNYM. So you have an audience of youth pastors who are listening today. Some of them possibly volunteer youth workers or people that just love teenagers, all the way up to full-time youth pastors. How would you like to encourage them today as we get ready to close out?
Yeah, I'd just like to say it's one. I think I've questioned so many the last few years of, is it worth it? And it's worth it. What you're doing matters. You're making a difference in a student's life, in a youth worker's life. Though you may not hear it, you may not see it for another 10, 20 years. It's making a difference. What you're doing matters. So keep going, push through the hard times, push through, be confident of what God's called you to, and step into that because God is much bigger than anything that we face, and God's placed people in our lives to help us along the journey too. So keep pressing on, keep doing what you're doing, and don't give up. The task is too big. The cause is so important, and the urgency is here, and the time's now that we've got to step up. We've got to answer to our call and say, hey, I'm here and I want to make an impact because God's called me to this. Never forget your calling. That's the most important thing. I think if you get discouraged, go back to, okay, what has God called me to and why am I here? And everything else seems to fade away, but keep pressing on. Don't give up because it's worth it. Definitely.
It's a good word. Like we need to have a prayer and an invitation right now. That was really good. That was really good. So I know people are, hopefully we've sparked their interest enough about networking, and maybe they're curious about NNYM, how to actually get connected with a network or start one in their own area. Where can people go to find out more information about that, and also maybe connect with you if they have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, so our main website is NNYM, National Network of Youth Ministries, nnym.org. You can go on there. You can actually register a free profile. Say, hey, I'm a youth pastor. Register for free. Get in the system a little bit, and say you can also search by zip code if you're like, I want to connect with other youth pastors. You can search by your zip code and pull up any networks that are listed in our database that are in your area. There's also a clickable map on the main page that you can actually click on your location on the map and kind of see a listing of all the networks in your area. But you know what? We're here to help. We've got team all over the U.S. We've got regional coordinators, state coordinators, metro coordinators that want to help youth pastors connect to youth pastors. So if there's anybody on our team, I'd love to help connect you to anybody on our team as well. I'll go ahead and get my email address is kmiles, miles, at nnym.org. You can email me, you can contact me, and I'd love to get you connected to one of our team members in your area. If I'm not in your area, just to help you find another youth pastor, and really just to help you connect. So if we can be the excuse for other youth pastors to get together, let us say, hey, this person's coming or whatever. And if we can provide that excuse for youth pastors, we want to do that just to be a launching pad for you.
Thank you, Kevin. And yeah, it's been great to work and partner with you over the last couple of years, and looking forward to seeing what God does in the future with our partnership and all God continues to do through the national network for sure. And yeah, thanks for all that you've done for teenagers, but also now for youth pastors and then the regions that you lead, but also in the whole country. And just pray that God continues to bless all your ministry.
Well, thank you so much. It's so good to be on here, and thank you for what you do in youth ministry. You got so many things that you're impacting students' lives, from youth pastor to a podcast, working with us in Colorado as our state coordinator as well. So we're so thankful for you and your ministry, and you've been connected with us for a long time, even before Colorado. So
yeah,
thanks.
I hope that was both informative and encouraging to you. And if so, I want to ask you to do two things. First, check out the National Network website and get connected on there. And second, share this with others you know in student ministry. All right, now it's time to talk more about those prizes that we're giving away to celebrate 100 episodes of this podcast. As I mentioned earlier, we are giving away 5 different prize packs to celebrate. So, first thing that we're going to be giving away is a Cards Christians Like party game. If you're familiar with maybe Apples to Apples or Cards Against Humanity, it's very similar to that, but much cleaner. Each round, one player will read a prompt for the other players to fill in with their funniest response. Each of the cards are unique observations about the church and Christian culture that play in hundreds of hilarious combinations. This is a physical copy of the game that we'll send you, and it's worth $39. The next thing up for grabs is a G-Shades Season 4 Prime annual subscription. This is their highest tier of curriculum, and it includes full video messages, message manuscripts, small group guides, access to games, Bible reading plans, ministry leader guides, parent guides, graphics, and bumper videos, as well as access to personalized video shoutouts. All of this comes in at a $408 value. The next prize is from Download Youth Ministry, and it's a lifetime membership to their Youth Ministry University. If you've never checked this out, it's a great way to help your volunteers grow with bite-sized training that works on any device. This amazing resource features leading voices in the youth ministry world, teaching your volunteers through short 10-minute on-demand videos. Not only can they watch the videos and continue to learn and grow, but there's also a short reflection section at the end of each of the trainings to help them process what they're learning. An annual subscription is normally $249, and your annual renewal is $99. So you can start to add that up and realize the value of this particular lifetime membership. The fourth prize up for grabs is from Orange. It's a copy of Family Ministry Essentials, an Orange strategy guide. And in this book, you'll see the practical ways of how 2 combined influences can help make a greater impact than just 2 separate influences. If you've been curious about the Orange strategy, this is a great book to learn from. And also included in this prize are 10 volunteer enamel pins that you can use to make your volunteers feel like MVPs. The total value of this prize pack is $40. And the final prize we're giving away is 1 free Orange Conference ticket for 2023. You can use this both digital or in person. So if you can't make it to Atlanta, you can also use this as a digital ticket. I've been attending this conference for years, and you're going to be able to experience an engaging theme, practical training, one-of-a-kind fun, and lasting encouragement when you gather with an amazing community of ministry leaders from April 26th to 28th, 2023. The current value of a conference ticket is $319, but that does go up after February 23rd, 2023. You can check out the link in our podcast show notes to enter this contest. We're also going to have that link on our social media very soon. And when you click on that link, you're going to see several different ways that you can enter the contest, like tweeting, following us on social media, leaving us a review, posting a video, promoting the podcast, and so much more. And here's something really special for listeners of the podcast. When you go to the contest page, you're going to see an entry option that's labeled Enter Your Unique code. And so if you enter the code connection100, that's all one word, no spaces, connection100, you're going to receive an extra 50 entries into the contest. So be sure to use the code connection100 on the unique code section of the contest page. Also note that the card game and the orange prize pack with the book and the pins are only open to U.S. residents due to shipping. We are going to run this contest until March 10th, 2023, so that should give you plenty of time to enter, but don't wait. These are some amazing giveaways, and we are incredibly thankful to Cards Christians like G Shades, Download Youth Ministry, and Orange for partnering with us for these amazing giveaways and helping us celebrate 100 episodes of Student Ministry Connection. And again, don't forget that we still have that book giveaway for Know Thy Gamer by Drew Dixon from episode 98. That's going until February 28th, 2023. And as we get close to wrapping up, I wanted to let you know about a few ways that you can support the podcast moving forward through some affiliate programs that we're a part of. If you would like to go to the Orange Conference and want to save 10% off your individual or group ticket, either digital or in person, follow the link in our show notes, or you can use the promo code STEVE10, that's all one word, STEVE10, to save 10% off your ticket and also support the ministry of Student Ministry Connection. And if you would like to purchase your own copy of the Cards Christians Like game, you can follow the link in our show notes. Not only will you get a great game, you'll also be supporting the ministry of Student Ministry Connection. Thanks again to G Shades for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Be sure to head over to gshades.org. That's gshades.org to check out their curriculum, their blog, and so much more. And use the promo code CONNECTION when you check out to save $20 off your order. Thank you so much, G Shades, for sponsoring this episode. And thanks to all of you for being here to celebrate 100 episodes with us. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app, including YouTube, and follow us on social media. Also follow me at Steve Cullum on social media if you want to hear more about what God is doing in my life and connect with me. We'll be back in a couple weeks with episode 101, but for now, go enter our awesome giveaway. Be sure to stay connected, and may God bless your ministry.